You did it again this morning. You had a clear goal. You knew exactly what needed to happen, and then your brain offered you something more interesting to think about. A philosophical question, a technical problem, some abstract puzzle that felt urgent but had zero connection to what you actually need to do with your life. And because you're intelligent, because your mind can hold complex ideas, you followed that thread. You spent 2 hours thinking instead of doing. You probably didn't even notice it happening. That's the pattern. And if you're a man with a high IQ over 40, this pattern isn't just holding you back. It's quietly destroying the life you could be building. Here's what nobody tells intelligent men. Your intelligence isn't protecting you from self-sabotage. It's giving you more sophisticated tools to execute it. Average men fail because they don't think things through. Intelligent men fail because they think things to death. Let me show you exactly how this pattern operates, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Step 1 of the pattern. An opportunity appears. Could be a relationship, a career move, a health decision, anything that requires you to act in the real world with real consequences. Your first instinct, if you're honest, is probably clear. You know what you want. You know what you should do. But then, and this is where intelligence becomes dangerous, your mind offers you a gift. It says, before you act, let's think about this more carefully. Let's consider all the variables. And because you're smart, you can actually do that. You can generate dozens of relevant considerations, potential outcomes, historical parallels, philosophical frameworks. Your intelligence makes this feel productive. It feels like you're being responsible, thorough, wise. But here's what's really happening. You're using analysis as an anxiety buffer. Stephen Hayes, the psychologist who developed acceptance and commitment therapy, calls this cognitive fusion. You've become so merged with your thoughts that you've forgotten thoughts aren't actions. You're living in your head, and your head has convinced you that thinking about life is the same as living it. For intelligent men, this trap is almost invisible because the thinking feels so substantive, so important. But it's still a trap. Step 2. While you're analyzing, time passes. The opportunity starts to shift. Maybe the woman you were interested in starts seeing someone else. Maybe the job position gets filled. Maybe your body gets another year older without you addressing the health issue. And here's where your intelligence really betrays you. Instead of recognizing this as a consequence of inaction, your mind generates a narrative that protects your ego. It probably wasn't right anyway. The timing was off. I dodged a bullet. You rationalize the loss as wisdom. Jordan Peterson talks about this constantly. Order is what you can control and predict. Chaos is the unknown, the risky, the real. Intelligent men often construct elaborate mental structures, beautiful frameworks of order, specifically to avoid stepping into chaos. You've built a prison out of thoughts and called it philosophy. Step 3 is the shadow element, and this is pure Carl Jung. The intelligent man develops a persona of rationality. He's the logical one, the one who doesn't get swept up in emotion or impulsive decisions. He prides himself on this. But Jung understood that whatever you identify with creates an equal and opposite shadow. If you identify as rational, your shadow is everything irrational, emotional, instinctive, spontaneous. And that shadow doesn't disappear. It just operates underground. This is why highly intelligent men often have sudden, completely out-of-character breakdowns. Affairs, addiction, rage, financial recklessness. It's not that they lost control. It's that the control was always an illusion. The shadow was building pressure the entire time. Now here's the part that cuts deep. You probably know you're doing this. That's the cruel irony. You're intelligent enough to see the pattern, to recognize the self-sabotage, but your intelligence also gives you the ability to explain it away. I'm just being careful. I'm being strategic. I'm waiting for the right moment. Every intelligent man has a library of sophisticated excuses, and they're all bullshit. You're not being strategic, you're being afraid. And you're using your intelligence to make fear sound like wisdom. There's a specific flavor of suffering that belongs to intelligent men over 40. It's not the suffering of ignorance. It's the suffering of seeing exactly what you need to do and having the intellectual capacity to argue yourself out of doing it. You can see the gap between who you are and who you could be. You understand the psychology. You've read the books. You know the frameworks. But knowing doesn't translate to doing. And every year, that gap gets wider. That's what's eating you. Not that you don't understand your life. That you understand it perfectly and still won't act. So what breaks this pattern? It's not more thinking. That's the last thing you need. It's a complete inversion of how you've been operating. You have to start treating action as the antidote to analysis. Small, concrete, physical actions that generate real consequences. Not perfect actions. Not optimized actions. Just actions. Hayes would say you need to diffuse from your thoughts. Recognize them as mental events, not truths. Peterson would say you need to voluntarily confront chaos to step into the unknown before you feel ready. Jung would say you need to integrate your shadow, to acknowledge the parts of yourself that don't fit your rational self-image. Here's the bottom line. Your intelligence is a tool, not an identity. And right now, you're using that tool to build elaborate justifications for inaction. Every moment you spend analyzing is a moment you're not living. The real world doesn't reward the most thorough thinker. It rewards the person who acts despite uncertainty. You're 40 plus. The clock is moving. Your intelligence won't save you from regret. Only action will. If this hit close to home, you need to understand why intelligent men also struggle with a specific type of loneliness that has nothing to do with being alone. Click to discover the psychological isolation that comes from living in your head.